One of the reasons why AT-AT Commander likes to wear a scarf is because it reminds him of his great-great-grandpappy Percival Commander, who used to be a model for video games such as Dodge 'em for the Atari 2600, a Patreon pick thanks to Richard. Thank you, Richard, for picking this game featuring label/box/cover art that kind of looks like some dude just kidnapped Mary Poppins and took her on a very dangerous car ride. Let's go ahead and take Dodge 'em and pop it into my Atari 7800 Pro system and find out how it holds up today. Let's go to the game. Help me! Dodge 'em was published by Atari and carries a copyright year of 1980. The idea for the game was most likely ripped off from Sega's arcade game Head-On, which came out a year earlier. According to the manual, you are taking on the Demolition Derby King, Crashin' Clyde, who sometimes brings his sidekick, Smashing Sam, to the racetrack. Crashin' Clyde is tough and mean and follows no rules, so your driving skills will be tested to the limits. By the way, on weekends, Crashin' Clyde likes to take long strolls on the beach with Beachcomber Betty and play Tiddlywinks with Game and Gus. Dodge 'em is a single-screen game that contains 4 roads. The roads are filled with dots that you are trying to collect. The game starts with 2 cars moving in opposite directions. In the single-player game, you are trying to collect all the dots without hitting the opposing car. Collect all the dots, and you move on to the next level. If you collide with the other car before you do, all the dots return to the maze. If you get hit 3 times, your game is over. When playing, you are constantly moving forward and can only change lanes in the 4 open areas. In the north and south sections, you can switch lanes by pressing up or down, and in the west and east open areas, you can change lanes by pressing right or left. This took me a while to get the hang of, as I wanted to control the car like I was in the driver's seat, always pressing left or right to change lanes. Also, my reflexes seemed a little too slow, as I often missed changing lanes. It seems I almost had to start my lane changing before hitting the open areas. You can also hold down the button to accelerate. When accelerating, you can only move over 1 lane, but when going to standard speed, you can move over 2. But be careful, as Crashin' Clyde will react quickly to your moves, and once you commit to a lane, there's no going back. If you manage to collect all the dots in 2 stages in a row, the next 3 stages will add Smashing Sam, really upping the challenge. Scoring wise, you receive 1 point for every dot and a bonus of 8 points for clearing the boards. The game has a total of 5 boards with a maximum possible score of 1,080 points. According to the manual, getting to the final 3 boards can be very difficult to do. I felt lucky if I ever made it to the 3rd board and have never made it to the 4th. The fact that all the dots reappear when you crash really upped the challenge in the game. In addition to the single-player mode, there is also a 2-player variation where players can alternate against the computer, and a 2-player mode where the players can take on each other, with each one taking turns being the computer car, which cannot accelerate or score points, but just tries to ram the other player. This sounds like a lot of fun, but sadly I was unable to try out the 2-player game. The difficulty switches also come into play with this game. When the left difficulty switch is in the A position, the computer car will travel twice as fast on boards 2 and 4. The B position is for normal speed at all times. When the right difficulty switch is in the B position, computer cars always start in the same spot at the beginning of a race, but their starting positions become more random in the A position. Graphically speaking, the game looks like an early Atari game with very basic graphics, and the same can be said for the sounds as well. Family-friendly wise, there are plenty of crashes, but there's never any blood nor any gremlins to run over. On eBay, loose copies sell for about $4, complete and box copies sell for $10 to $12, and new copies are going for $18, and as always, those prices include the shipping. So what did I think of Dodge 'em? Well, at first I found it so difficult that I had a hard time getting past the first stage and didn't really have much fun playing it due to the difficulty. But as I played it, I got a little better, and I found it to have this addictive quality where you want to play just one more game trying to get a little farther than before. And while I wish it was just a little less challenging to begin with, I still kept returning to it. I could also imagine it being even more enjoyable with 2 players. So where am I going to rank Dodge 'em? Well, guess what? This is my 50th Atari 2600 game that I'm going to rank, and it's definitely going to be in the upper half. Let's see, at 14 and 15, I have a pair of really good sport titles in Real Sports Volleyball and Pete Rose Baseball, both of which are a bit easier and I enjoy just a little bit more. But at 16, I have Smurf, and while Smurf is a solid game, I'd rather try to get a little further and Dodge 'em. So I'm going to make Dodge 'em my new number 16 game. Dodge 'em is tough but enjoyable on the 2600. If you enjoy retro-related videos, would you please click the like and subscribe buttons? You can now support the show through Patreon, just like Richard did, who earned the right to pick today's game. Thank you so much, Richard, and all my other Patreon supporters as well. If you would like to join the NSG Patreon Brigade, just follow the link in the description below. Also, be sure to check out some of my many other videos covering Atari, Sega, Nintendo, and more. With over 200 videos now posted, there's something for just about any retro fan. Thank you for giving me a little part of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the next episode of the No Swear Gamer. Take care, and always use your turn signal when changing lanes.